So what are you doing here? It seems like you're starting with a pen initially. Is that right?
Yeah, I actually prefer starting with a pen than I do pencil. I'm just going in with a fine liner because I can thicken them up later, the ones that are important. And I'm just really doing the basic shapes that I'm seeing in front of me.
And is this a permanent pen or what is
Yeah,
it?
this is a permanent pen. It's a little fine liner,
So
finest
this is
tip.
not water soluble.
No, no,
Okay.
this isn't water soluble because I want to use ink, a water soluble ink with this, but I want my initial lines to sort of stay in place in this case.
Okay.
And I'm actually using a textured paper here. It's quite a heavy texture. So this fine liner pen, you can see the lines kind of break a little bit, which I really like. I prefer than a very, very smooth line, and it works really well when it comes to doing the hair and putting the ink on a bit later on.
So is this a mixed media paper or is it a watercolor? What is it?
This one is a watercolor paper. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And I'm just really going over the where I can see the basic shapes of the hair, not being too precious about it, just the main overall shape. So yeah, I'm starting off with just getting the shapes down with my fine liner pen.
Okay, and so now you're going in with a brush, and is that
Yeah,
just
nice.
ink neat? Is that pure
Yeah,
ink?
this is Quink Ink, and I love Quink Ink because as it dries, although it looks really black here, as it dries, it sort of takes on all these different colours, almost separates. You get yellows and blues, and it just gives it a real interest in the colour. It's not flat. And you can see what I mean by the texture of the paper,
Yeah.
how well it helps the hair. This brush actually holds a lot of ink. It's a sable brush. It holds an awful lot of pigment, which is great. So I don't have to dip it too much, but I'm sort of going in really dark where the deeper area is and just leave little flecks where it misses the tooth, which is fantastic for this kind of thing.
It's almost like a dry brush effect, that, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and you can use this brush has got a super fine point, but you can also use it really, really thickly, so you can pretty much do everything with it. And you'll see in a minute when I do the eyebrows, I'm even just using the tip of this brush, the same brush for those eyebrows because it's so versatile. I'm just flicking on a few extra little bits around the edge to give it some life. So here I go just to darken those eyebrows. And you'll see that I've actually diluted that ink a little bit there to make it a bit paler. You can do that. And this is the fun part, sunglasses. I love drawing sunglasses because I just love the way they reflect the light and what's going on around them. So you'll see here I'm using a finer brush for this part.
And obviously you're really good with a brush because you're so used to painting, aren't you? I think mine would be all over the place if I was doing this.
I've had plenty of practice with a brush, yeah. Steady hand.
So do you have little pots where you're watering it down? How are you watering it? Have you put it in a palette?
Nothing quite so thoughtful, really. I've just taken the lid off the Quink Ink and using the ink that's in the lid and then just
Right.
diluting a bit of water on my brush from time to time. You can see, where I've diluted it here for some of the skin tones. The skin tone obviously isn't going to be as dark as the hair or the sunglasses, so I've just diluted that ink.
So that is diluted ink rather than dragging a bit
Yes.
off the hair, yeah?
Oh, yeah, yeah. So what goes on sort of stays on,
Right.
but it's just using, I'm not really dissolving the ink, I'm just diluting it in
Yeah.
this case. And you can see sort of where it's starting to separate. You can see the blues in that skin tone. It's probably more evident in the actual drawing itself rather than perhaps on the video. But it just like creates some nice interesting colours.
You can see a blue tint there a little bit, can't you?
Yeah, yeah, and as it sort of fades further, you'll sort of see some yellow tinges coming where it just sort of separates. And now I'm kind of doing some of the shadows, the darker shadows on the face.
So do you do this in any specific order? Because you seem to be like you've done some darks, or do you just do the key darks first?
I usually work on the darkest darks first,
Right.
and after that, I sort of go in with the sort of lighter shades, and then leave the whitest parts as the paper, the white of the paper, a bit like you would with watercolor, really.
Okay, and I can see there you just picked up a little bit of the black from the hair, didn't you, to go
It
into
kind
the
of
neck bit?
Yeah, there was ink on my brush, and I've kind of as well, and I've dropped it into that wet paper so it blends really nicely. You haven't got that hard edge.
You've got like a wet and wet effect like you get with watercolor.
Exactly that. Yeah, now I've got my gel pen. It's just a white gel pen, really cheap pen. And I'm just adding a few, I don't know, highlights really, not being precious. It just adds a bit of interest.
Do you know, I think as soon as you start putting on that, brings it to life, doesn't it?
It does somehow, even though you can see that there's nothing precious about those marks, but somehow it kind of works. And I even, well, just so you can see there, I'm just going in there with my fine liner pen just to exaggerate slightly the dark between where the lips meet.
Yeah.
And the gel pen, I'm doing the same. I'm just adding a few highlights where perhaps I've gone over with ink where perhaps I shouldn't have done. It doesn't show up so much on the video as perhaps it does on the actual drawing itself, but you get the idea.
No, it looks good.
Yeah, and I've done quite a few drawings like this.
So are these people, are they your rock chick friends?
Oh yeah, I've got lots of cool friends, Tara. They're not all like you, you know. I like to get down with the kids. That was such an insult. Sorry.
It's all right, I'm used to it.
Why not check out our previous videos, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss your Art Kick Sunday. Meanwhile, you can check out our podcast and find the creative challenges we have coming up at www.kickinthecreatives.com. Back soon.